Hello, everyone. Give us a moment. We'll start in about a minute. Letting some people log in right now. Appreciate it. Well, let's get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining Scribe's webinar, AI in Depositions, What's Working and What Isn't. My name is Randy Brown, and before I introduce our speakers, just one quick housekeeping item. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We'll be answering that as quickly as we can. Now, it's my pleasure, my great pleasure, to introduce our speakers today. Our first speaker is Laura Ramos James, who's the founder and sole owner of Ramos James Law. Also joining us is Karl Seelbach, who's the managing partner at Doyle and Seelbach, and is also the co-founder of Skribe. So, Laura and Karl, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Randy, for the warm intro. All right. Well, let's dive right in. We've got an hour. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Any good litigator knows you got to give your audience an agenda. So here it is. We're going to do brief intros, tell you a little bit about Scribe. We're going to jump straight into some rules and some discussion of ethics and how to use AI responsibly and safely. And then we're going to go through kind of the three different stages of a deposition: pre-deposition workflow, live deposition, and post-deposition. And then we'll cover some best practices along the way. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We will try to take them live. I can't promise that we'll be able to take all of them live. And if a question is asked that we plan to cover anyway, we may defer it until we get to that part. But really excited to dive into this. Quick introduction, try to keep this fun. A little bit about me. Born in Texas. I am dual citizen with Norway. For those World Cup fans out there, we may do a row later. We'll see. Grew up in Northeast Texas, where I met my lovely wife, Adrian. Went to South Texas for law school. Started my career at Winstead before moving to Austin, where I have two lovely daughters. Started my own firm in 2015 with a good friend of mine, Trek Doyle, and am one of the co-founders of Skribe. In my spare time, most of my time, money, and effort goes into club volleyball. It's like a part-time job for my two kiddos, but it's a lot of fun. My co-presenter is Laura. Laura, go ahead.
Yes, so hi everyone. I'm Laura Ramos James. I am originally from Mexico, born and raised. I moved to the US when I was 18. I didn't really speak a lot of English, but I ended up staying here, going to college, then going to Baylor Law because I wanted to be a trial attorney. I sustained a catastrophic injury when I was 3. German Shepherd attacked me, and I had to go through a lot of counseling and medical procedures. So I always wanted to be the voice for people that were going through the same thing. But when I started practicing, I started as a defense attorney, and I did that. I did insurance defense for 3 years in South Texas. Then I moved to Austin, and I have been doing plaintiff's work ever since. And I opened my own law firm by myself with 4 cases, no staff, no furniture, no nothing in 2018, Ramos James Law. I met my husband in Austin, John, who's from Ohio, OH. And we have 2 daughters, Victoria and Allie, 5 and a 3-year-old. So it's busy around here, but excited to talk about AI and depots today.
All right. Well, excellent introduction. I'm so glad that you joined me for this. And yeah, your girls are a little bit younger than mine, but not much, not that much. So, all right. Well, let's dive in. A few disclaimers. So, Laura and I are not your attorneys. Hopefully, we keep you very entertained during this presentation, but it is not intended to be legal advice. Any typos we blame on AI because AI definitely did help us build this presentation. And of course, if you cite anything that we say in a brief, we may object to that, or we may bill you, right, Laura?
Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
all right, so let me give kind of a brief introduction of Scribe. Scribe is the host of this. So Scribe is a digital reporting company, and it provides both digital reporting services with professional humans in the loop, as well as software layered into the entire process. Some of that software is automated speech recognition, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Some of that software includes generative AI, and we're going to talk about the differences between those two things. But really, one of the big goals of Scribe is to make it very, very easy and less expensive to take a deposition and capture testimony, and then be able to immediately leverage that in whatever way you need to kind of advance your case. And so the goal with what Skribe has built is really to make sure that the testimony, the transcript, the video, and the exhibits are always at your fingertips, and that you can leverage the latest software to help you become a better attorney and do a better job for your client. So Laura, this wasn't originally in the presentation, and Laura was like, I think you need to tell them, like, what is a Skribe deposition like, so that they understand what to expect. So we put together this during the deposition. I guess a frequent maybe misconception is all you're going to have is software. That's not the case. Every Skribe deposition is staffed with a digital reporter. That person is a certified notary. They swear in the witness. They monitor the quality of the recording. The recording is done redundantly, so you have a backup. They also take down unique spellings of words and names and make sure that there's not too much crosstalk or overtalk that could negatively impact the final transcript. There are also optional AI features, generative AI features, and I'm going to explain some of those in a little bit. Same day the deposition is over, you get a higher quality rough transcript. So the real-time transcript is coming through as the deposition is taking place, and then that gets more fully processed post-event and synced to the video. And that's a higher quality rough transcript. You can also download that as a PDF, and you can highlight text and create video clips and highlight reels and all types of things, and leverage AI against that deposition just as soon as it's over. So that's a really, speed itself is a pretty powerful feature there. And then within 1 week, you're going to get a final transcript, and that transcript will have gone through a multi-step review process by professional transcriptionists who make sure that it is accurate, that it is legally formatted, and that the text matches verbatim the non-stenographic recording. And Skribe also handles the errata process, so the read and sign that goes out to the witness or the witness's attorney. That is all facilitated by Skribe's team as well. So just a little overview of that. Another thing, again, Laura had some great recommendations. She's going to have a ton of great advice along this journey, but she said you got to put some stuff in at the beginning so people know what to expect about what Skribe is. And so I added this slide as well. And so Laura, maybe speak to this a little bit. I know a lot of attorneys, even those of us who've been doing it for a while, maybe haven't even looked closely at the rules and don't even know that this is an option.
That's right. It is an option. One of the things that first attracted us to this option was the cost, actually. Hiring court reporters that nowadays, at least in Texas, the costs are astronomical. And ultimately, as we know, you may advance as a law firm, you may advance the cost, but the client is the one that ends up paying. And so we were very interested to use it. We've used it now for every single, we only use Skribe, but we've used it for every single type of depo. Independent witnesses, our own clients, expert witnesses, and it's been very, very reliable. The other fun thing that to mention, Karl, having someone in person, in the beginning when you're like, okay, you're going to use video, you're going to rely on Zoom. So as you mentioned, some attorneys have asked me, well, you're using this platform. What if like there's a glitch or whatnot? You do have human backup to even the extent of when I'm going through my exhibits, many times they're voluminous or I'm taking different depots and the exhibits are continuous. And I ask the person that's assisting, like, hey, what's my exhibit number? And they keep me on track. So, I mean, it's really just as any other depot that you've taken.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm trying to take some questions in real time as promised at the beginning, and we've got a couple. One is as a human reviewing the transcript for accuracy? Absolutely. It actually goes through a multi-step process. Based on our own assessment, they're 99% or higher accurate. Let me give you kind of a comparison, like a barometer. Where does that fall? Under the National Court Reporting Association standards, the percentage that you have to pass to become a stenographer is 95% accuracy. So there's no such thing as 100% accuracy. That's just not a thing, but you do have the video and you have an extremely accurate transcript. And one of the great things about non-stenographic depositions is the video is the source of truth. So if there's ever a dispute about what was said, you can always play it back. And the person that posed that question asked, have you ever experienced significant mistakes in the final transcript? Knock on wood, we have not. We don't have any.
I haven't either.
cases or clients that we're aware of ever complaining about a significant mistake in a transcript, and the errata process, the review and sign, gives the witness an opportunity to review both the final transcript, and they even get a courtesy copy of the recording if they'd like to go back and watch the recording. So, and then how do we turn off chat notices so they don't interrupt the presentation? Goodness gracious, I don't know. Can you see my chat window? I thought it was hidden. Laura, do you see my chat window or no?
I don't see yours, but I do
Okay.
see that every time there's a question, the chat.
I think that one might be above our pay grade, Laura. So we'll see if Randy can tinker with the settings. I also had a question about a specific state. I don't have all 50 states memorized. I guess I should. Scribe does have a section on its website that lists almost all of the states and the rules in each state for non-stenographic. Laura and I, of course, both practice in Texas, where it's permitted under Rule 199 and 203.6 of the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. And then the federal rules. The federal rules are really what kicked off non-stenographic depositions in the early 90s. In 1993, they amended the rules to allow for non-stenographic, think audio video depositions as a matter of right. And almost all the states followed suit. Some of the states do require stipulations, and you can feel free to email me if you want, or check Scribe's website for that. So in the interest of time, here, I'm going to kind of try to demystify this a little bit. One of the things that we often hear nowadays, that now that non-stenographic depositions are becoming more common, and it happens to be coincide with generative AI getting very popular, we've got some confusion, right? We've got some confusion, and that confusion often comes in the form of, what do you mean you're going to use AI to take a deposition? Chat GPT surely can't, capture a deposition. No, it can't. I would agree with that statement, but generative AI is much, much different than automated speech recognition and professional proofreading that goes along with it to get to a final transcript. And so I've kind of got a graphic here on the screen that tries to kind of compare and contrast that for you. Think of ASR, automated speech recognition, like almost like a phonetic transducer. It is taking the spoken words, the phonetics, and mapping those to a word that you and I can read on a page, right? It's ironically, it's extremely similar to what a stenographer is trained to do in stenography school. So it's not going to invent any words. It's not going to add any words, syllables, phonetics that were not actually spoken. It is just mapping the sound to the word. Whereas generative AI, it just predicts the next words, right? It's not translating audio into text. It is inventing sentences that have never been spoken before. So it's a completely different technology, and generative AI is not used by Scribe to create transcripts. It is used for optional analysis features, which we'll show you some of those in just a minute. And I am trying to keep track of the questions. I'll look in just a minute when Laura talks about some of the ethics rules. One of the things that I think is important to emphasize here is not all tools are created equal when it comes to privacy and security. And so one of the things that Scribe prides itself on, like many legal tech companies, is we're doing this at an enterprise grade level with privacy in mind, built for attorneys, built for law firms. So for the optional generative AI tools, we currently work with Anthropic through a enterprise grade API. We actually have an agreement with their company. And it is a closed system. It does not train on the data that is submitted. And the way Scribe is architected, it is architected to be SOC 2 and HIPAA compliant in the infrastructure with data encryption. So you'll need to, again, validate any tool you're going to use. Make sure that they're not training on your data. Make sure that they're siloing your data and keeping it private so that your firm's data doesn't get mixed or commingled with other law firms. That's a very important thing to think about. And I know, Laura, you and I talked a little bit in getting ready for this presentation about how that concept overlaps with some of the ethical kind of guardrails and bar guidance around confidentiality.
That's right.
So speaking of that, I'll cover national, and there's one opinion actually that I'll mention that may not be on the screen that I kind of thought was a little odd. And then Laura's going to touch on Texas just a minute. So we're all learning, right? Some of us may be a little more into this and a little more geeked out with this stuff related to generative AI than others, but we really are all students, right? We're all still learning. How do we use technology? How do we use the latest software? How do we use generative AI? and do it responsibly. So the American Bar Association has issued a few different pieces of guidance. One is this Formal Opinion 512. They also have some model rules that they put together. And where most of these rules steer back is to pre-existing duties of confidence, confidentiality, and client communication. And so it's, we have a duty as attorneys to remain competent, to remain trained on kind of the latest and greatest ways to practice law. We have a duty to make sure that material that's supposed to be confidential stays confidential. And we have a duty to our client. And so here's one place where I think I may disagree a little bit with some of the American Bar guidance. So how do you communicate this stuff to your client? There was some commentary, and I'm blanking on the exact comment number or opinion that was issued, but there was some commentary from the American Bar Association that we have a duty to inform our clients when we're using generative AI, or if using it would result in dramatically less cost to the client, and that just putting it in an engagement letter or like a rate increase letter, something that lawyers that charge by the hour send out on an annual basis often may not be enough. So, take that for what you will. I think there's a balance here. I don't know that your client wants to be constantly getting told over and over and over that, hey, I'm going to use generative AI on this case. But I would say if you have a standard intake form, if you have a standard intake letter, or if it's a client that is a new client, definitely cover it at a minimum in your engagement letter or your intake form. Laura, how do you currently kind of tackle it from the client communication side of things?
Yeah, we like to, well, I guess maybe the background is my clients are individuals, right? Versus companies. So our clients are not billed by the hour or anything like that. But the topic essentially that we touch upon is we try to err on the side of being cautious and let them know that, hey, we're your attorney. We're going to be handling your case. We're going to be using AI, but don't you use AI. Don't you be plugging stuff into your chat GPT, because many times, we ended up kind of picking up on emails and things like that were alerting us that stuff maybe consulted through ChatGPT or Claude. So we were kind of I think now the idea is to distribute a resource where we're telling them from the beginning, like before you plug in anything that pertains to your case, you need to talk to us first and really, to not do that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But trying to educate clients, but also maybe rein them in a little bit, since everyone wants to use generative AI now. I was talking to my doctor recently at just a physical, and he said it's crazy. Every single patient comes in now having pre-run stuff through ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, and he just gets more and more questions than ever. So I think a lot of professions are dealing with that with their clients, with their patients. So I know Texas has looked at a few different options. Laura, you had maybe looked at this closer than me. What is the current state of play in Texas on whether there's any new rules around this?
Sure. So we'll want to be looking, if you're practicing in Texas or take cases in Texas, you'll want to look at Ethics Opinion 705. And essentially, they are telling us that yes, it is now widely known that AI assists the practice of law. It doesn't replace it. So it is incumbent upon us to become technologically competent. So you and I were talking, Carl, about like we can now just say, hey, I'm old school, and like, kind of bury your head in the sand, and like, I don't know how this stuff works. It is upon you to learn this stuff. And of course, the most important thing, you can read your opinion, the opinion on your own, but the most important thing it's looking at is they want you to know how to protect your client's information, to make sure you're not filing or exchanging fabricated responses. And of course, this comes from generative AI and the well-known, hallucinations nowadays when it comes to citations and things like that. And also that we're not charging our clients for the time that we save.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, no firm is immune. We've now seen, AmLaw 100 firms sanctioned over the last year or so. So no firm, there's no one too big or too small to be impacted by someone on your team misusing generative AI. And I think it happens most frequently when maybe someone uses something that isn't even firm authorized. Someone just jumps on a free account of ChatGPT at your team, and the next person in line reviewing the draft doesn't realize that someone else else had used a free non-legal specific tool. So we talked a little bit about this. I would say if anyone has a question that they want to drop in the chat that they're seeing come up a lot from clients, feel free to drop it in and I'll try to catch it. But and the goal there being like, what are your clients asking about the use of generative AI? I think Laura and I talked a little bit about this earlier this week when we were getting ready for the presentation. And one of the things that jumped out to me was what Laura touched on a second ago is there is a big risk if your clients use a free version of generative AI, think ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, that still trains on the data, that they could put case materials in there, that they could put confidential materials in there, and they could potentially blow any type of privilege that might apply to those documents. And there's been at least one case out of the Southern District of New York, a federal case, where exactly that happened. And so I think that same risk applies where employees are using unauthorized tools, because I think a lot of them are going to potentially go to free tools because they don't want to maybe spend their own money on a kind of a business class license for the tool. So that really does present a problem. And it looks like we had a couple of comments here. One was advising clients to not use their own AI discussions pertaining to their cases. It's not covered by attorney-client privilege and may be discoverable. Spot on. I agree with that comment. And I think what we should do, particularly those of us, it depends on who you represent, right? Laura's on the plaintiff side. I'm on the defense side. That's no secret. With my clients, some of them have business class generative AI tools that they're starting to use and they get trained on it. So a little bit less of an issue for me, at least with my business clients. With Laura on your side, with some of your clients, they probably don't know any better. So, I guess I'm wondering, would you maybe offer to them, hey, if you want to run something through generative AI, come to us with your questions and we can help you do that in a more secure way?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I would encourage any plaintiff's attorney to look into enterprise grade security AI platforms like Supio, Even Up, Eve, those things are going to help you with that type of stuff. And I know that Lexis has their own AI feature now integrated. So it'd be a great idea to encourage clients like, hey, I am basically who you come to, and let's look at this stuff together. And then, tell them why. The reason
Yeah.
is our stuff is protected.
Absolutely agree with that. Well, I'm gonna keep us rolling here because we got a lot of fun content to go over, including some hands-on examples of how you can use generative AI for depositions. I saw another couple of things come through in the chat. One was a suggestion to work with tools that give you a text output in case you want to use something later in a different generative AI tool, perhaps that your firm has access to. That's a great idea, and I'll show you in just a minute when you're interacting with Skribe's generative AI panel. You can copy just the text out of the responses and drop that in wherever you want to drop it in, whether that's into Microsoft Word, a notepad, or some other tool that your firm has access to. But that's a great suggestion. So prepping for depos with AI. I'm going to walk through an example of how you can use Skribe for that. But Laura, I'm kind of curious. What are some ways that your team, how do you train like your associates to get ready for a deposition in the world of generative AI as a firm owner?
Nowadays, I think it's very hard to do things the way you and I probably learned to do them, which is, you gotta know the whole file cold and review every last word yourself and, and then go into the deposition once you've studied everything. We try to balance it out this way. The attorney has to be intimately familiar with the file, and they cannot use AI to replace preparation. So they need to know, while they don't need to review every last medical record, or every last word that's in the medical record, they do need to know where to find the answer and how to test the answer they give from AI. And my firm, earlier I mentioned that I encourage any plaintiff's attorney to look into those AI platforms is because we use an AI platform for that, and it's made us more efficient, and it's made us, quicker and save time in things that are maybe you just too time consuming or dull. But at the same time, there's the risk that it substitutes preparation. So we always we always emphasize that you have to know the file, you have to be prepared for it. You can just plug stuff in, get the answers, and then go take the depo with whatever questions you got, because you're going to get a gazillion questions. You have to review the output that you get so that, you go into the deposition prepared. So essentially,
Yeah.
it will assist you, but it will not replace you.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could just put all the exhibits under your pillow and just get it all through osmosis. Like it's what my parents used to tell me when I studied for exams in college. You have to put in the work because ultimately you have to know the material to be able to ask the questions and understand the context. And I think that's particularly true when you're dealing with the risk, which is still a real thing with almost any AI tool, the risk of a hallucination or maybe an exaggeration, like where it's being overconfident in its analysis, the generative AI tool that you're using. So let's go through this and let's show an example. So these AI tools are extremely powerful. I mentioned earlier that Skribe works with Anthropic as to power our analytical tools within the platform. So let me kind of explain what you're about to see. This is going to be post-deposition, but getting ready for the next witness in the case. So this is prep related, where you're going to be analyzing one of the key depositions that has taken place and getting ready for the next deposition. So here's a sample prompt. We're going to kind of run it, but essentially it's based on this witness's deposition. What are some topics a counsel may probe in the next deposition? Key documents I should review with my witness to get them ready, potential traps, and suggested prep questions. So here's kind of what it looks like. And this is logged in now to the Skribe interface. This mock deposition has been taken in the case. And so we're going to go into it. I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like. We're going to click in, and you have a 3-panel view. Transcript on the left.
Today's date is November 21st, 2020.
Transcript on the left, video and video clips in the middle, and then your AI on the right-hand side. And you can actually reconfigure this. If you want to hide one panel, you can, but I have all 3 up right now. And what you're going to see is we have posted a question. So let me zoom in a little bit. Based on this deposition, identify topics that counsel may probe. And so it's analyzing the entire deposition, and it's putting together a prep guide for me. And you could tell it you want it to help me prep. You want me to help it prep the witness that's going to be deposed. But it's identifying from the content of that deposition key documents that maybe the rep should be ready to review to get ready for the deposition. So again, I'm kind of zoomed in here just to show you that panel. Here's the gaps section where you can see here's potential areas where traps, not gaps, excuse me, where the witness needs to be ready for maybe a tricky question. And it will give you examples of kind of how to prep for that particular issue. So it's an extremely powerful way to kind of, as you're working through your case, work from the deposition that just finished to get ready for the next one. And you can copy that out at the bottom. There's a copy button that you could drop that into Microsoft Word or something like that. And so it will also, and we're going to go over this in more detail in just a minute, it will also analyze other documents as well. So you do have the option to upload other files, and it can contextualize the testimony that's on the screen with the other documents or exhibits or even prior transcripts as well.
And Karl, for someone who has never seen the Skribe platform and is trying to make sense of what we're talking about, on the left, we have the real words that were spoken. The ASR used them to essentially map out the sounds and put the words to the screen. And then on the right, that's the AI, correct?
That's exactly right. And what's not showing on this one, because it's just an example, it doesn't have a final transcript, is the rough on the left is what shows up here. I'll zoom in a little bit on it. The rough on the left-hand side that I'm now zoomed in on is what shows up almost as soon as the deposition is over. You'll have a real time during the deposition, which looks a little different. And then once the final transcript is finished within a week, you'll see another tab pop up right here that says final transcript, and that'll be your completely final proofread verified transcript. So it is kind of a 3-panel format. You can adjust your view if you want to, make the transcript bigger, hide the video, hide the AI panel. It's very configurable configurable so you can get it just like you want it. And we'll show some more examples as we go through some of the other features in just a minute. But again, we said we'd talk about the pros and the cons or limits to this. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, at the end of the day, Laura, you and I talked about this last week. What you put in does matter. And it is, I think, a little risky just from kind of almost a data overload perspective, a mental overload perspective, to just dump your entire case file into something.
Yes, 100%. 100%. You have to be prepared. You have to know what the objective is that you need to get from the prompt that you're giving it, and to give it, like you said, you have to give it selected files that are specific. Very few depots are you going to be like, here's the whole file. And that's just not going to be productive. You will get a gazillion questions and just, I guess, rabbit holes that you don't want to go follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you really do have to kind of cull it down and really figure out, what are the materials. I always start with kind of the question of doing it the old school way. Let me pull all the types of documents and records that historically I would have read them top to bottom. And that becomes my core stack for this deposition. And then as I use AI to help me come up with questions, spot issues, then I need to verify, this is the verify every citation spot. AI is going to, but again, the way Skribe approaches is as well with Anthropic, AI is going to have document references. It's going to talk about, in this document, you can find X that's going to say Y. You need to go verify that. You need to go to the page of that document and make sure that that is an accurate reflection of what the document actually stands for. And at the end of the day, so we've got a couple tools at my firm that we use, Skribe, obviously, but also Clio is our practice management system. I've been working with both and using them both for outlining. And one of the things I noticed, Clio's is actually powered by OpenAI. They have an enterprise-grade API with OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT, whereas Skribe works with Anthropic. But both of them will occasionally come up with excellent questions for outlining purposes, but it's almost too many questions, and sometimes they're just not sequenced very logically. Like I had one that and I know why it did it. I had put the live pleadings into the system. And based on the fact that I had dropped in the petition and the answer and everything, one of the sections of the outline was just basically going through great questions, attacking all of the affirmative defenses that had been listed in the order that they were listed in the answer. Well, they were good questions, but those questions should have been in other parts of the deposition outline where that topic was actually being discussed, not just in sequential order where they appeared in the pleading. So again, AI continues to get better and better, but at the end of the day, we have to use our judgment as litigators to decide what question is ultimately going to get asked.
Yeah, and just like you did, Carl, I think you gave a perfect example of you weren't going to go to the depot with the list of questions and then in the middle of the depot realize like, oh, this is probably not a great rhythm and a great question for like right this moment. I think you need to be reviewing your output before you show up.
Yeah. Another thing to do before you show up, before you start, is upload what you're going to use. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is Skribe has live AI analytical tools that you can use if you want to, but they are much more powerful if you take the time before the deposition starts to upload the key documents. What could key documents mean? It could mean the exhibits that you plan to utilize. It could mean prior transcripts from witnesses who have been deposed in the case. It could be expert reports. I recommend putting a copy of your outline in there, right? It's your own private workspace. Just, it's not getting shared with anyone else. But when you finish your outline, upload it. And here's where to upload it. Let me show you. So this says Karl and Laura is just a sample event, but this would be what a deposition pre-event page would look like when you're using Skribe to take a deposition. So you can log in through your web browser. Google Chrome is recommended. And you just go over to the files section here and you just drag in and drop the files that you want to be able to analyze in real time as the deposition is unfolding using the AI sidebar. So it's a very, very powerful way. It's very easy to drop it in. It takes just, usually less than 5 minutes once you've got the documents organized. So let's talk about, how to leverage AI live in a deposition. What does it mean? I mean, the times have changed, right? We wouldn't have imagined this was even possible 5+ years ago, to do some of the things that you can do now. And when I think about it, I think about it from a high level first. The game has changed in a great way, I think. One is you should get a real-time transcript with every deposition. You should not have to pay more for that. That should just be a part of any court reporting company's offering, because it really is essential to be able to do some of the things we're going to show in just a minute. You have to have the real-time transcript, because that's going to give you the context and the content to be able to leverage the AI on top of that. The second thing, and I think this is becoming table stakes, is you got to be able to do more than keyword search it. You really need to be able to leverage AI chat, right? That's how we all think now. That's how we all prompt things. Even Google, if you just go to Google and ask a question now, they're starting to default to more generative AI response than just ranking websites. So we're going to show you how to AI chat during a live deposition. And then also insights. What can software do maybe for you to make it easier, to where you don't have to think about what to ask as much? And so we're going to show you what that can look like. So here's just a quick example. I'm going to show just a short little video to show you what this looks like when you're actually, you're spinning up a deposition. You've got what some people call the Brady Bunch, for those of maybe us over 40, on one screen, where you've got the Zoom, all the attendees. And then you just open up a second browser and you log into your Skribe account and you click real-time transcript. So this is kind of what it looks like once you've done that.
Launch the real-time transcript and watch it update. It updates every few words and continues until the event ends. It streams the ASR-generated text as the event happens. Keyword search. Change font size. Chat with the transcript when you need it. Get your questions answered. And finish your depo strong.
All right, we're going to go through some examples of what that looks like, but I just kind of want to take a step back before we do more kind of show and tell, and just pose this question, and pose it to both Laura as well as the attendees, if anyone has any ideas on this. How does real-time AI change the game? How does it potentially help, Laura, your team, do a better job for your clients? Have you seen any either thought of ideas that you're hoping come to fruition, or actual examples of where y'all have used it and you've seen some value from it?
Yeah, absolutely. I started using the chat with AI feature a few months ago, and it truly is transformational. I mean, so we have the AI platform that I discussed earlier, but with that, you have to take the documents and upload them. You don't have the real transcript as you do with Skribe. And, witnesses are giving their testimony, and as they're giving them, suppose you take a quick break and then you chat with the feature. And essentially you have more brain power. You have another attorney that you can be like, hey, what inconsistencies did you find? So that all of it happens at the time of the depo, because you and I were talking, Karl, about we've all had that horrible feeling of leaving a deposition and thinking, oh my gosh, I did not ask this question. Now I have to send, additional interrogatories. I have to wait 30 days for the answer. And then what if they just object? They don't give me an answer. So you don't have that when you get the ability to have the real-time transcript, to have the AI with you, and to be asking things like, find the gaps in the witness's logic, and things that, yes, we're lawyers, we're smart, but we're not the smartest, right? Like there's going to be other perspectives and other things that we can benefit from. And quite frankly, I mean, everyone should be using it. I want my adversaries to be using it as well, because, we want to uncover the truth, and this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, well, I definitely love that last comment. We want to uncover the truth. I mean, that is the goal that many of us are striving for in the way that we practice law, and this can help us get to the bottom of it. So one of the questions that came up in the chat, I want to answer it briefly, is how do you kind of annotate and mark exhibits? I don't have a slide on that, but I can explain it briefly. So in a Skribe deposition, you just do it through whatever your native, like Adobe, whatever you're opening the document in. If it's a PDF, Adobe. If it's a Word document, Word. And you can just share your screen and you can mark it up with using your native tool. And then the digital reporter will ask to collect a copy of that for the final record. And so that's current. That's how it's handled, and that seems to work pretty well in 99% of use cases. But that was a very good question. And I also, Laura, one other thing you said that I really resonated with me because I can think of an example when I was driving back from Dallas once. This was probably pre-COVID, so it was this one was in person. And I thought I had gotten the testimony I needed to file a motion for summary judgment. If you just ask me on the drive home, I was like, I got that witness. I know he said exactly what I needed to be able to close the loop and file my motion for summary judgment. And of course, with most court reporting companies, and this was before Skribe existed, I had to wait weeks to get a copy of the transcript unless I wanted to pay double or triple. And I didn't want to pay double or triple. So once the transcript finally came in and I went to the page, I was like, damn it. Didn't come out exactly like I thought it would come out. And one of the things that's so cool about using generative AI is if I had had a tool like that back then, I could have just asked the AI, have I sufficiently closed the loop on this issue to be able to move for summary judgment on the following grounds? And it would have analyzed the real-time transcript and told me point blank if there were gaps, if it was muddy. And so it really is a very powerful tool. So let's go into an example. Let's see, what does it look like in practice? We've talked about some of the benefits, but how could you actually use it to analyze in real time and see if there have been evasive responses or things that maybe we need to follow up on? So here's a sample prompt we're going to drop in. We're basically going to ask the chat, and just imagine you're on a deposition break. I would say that's probably one of the most common ways that attorneys are using this tool. Some use it in real time, like they've got, super savvy with it, and they'll ask it the chat AI chat questions as they're taking the deposition. But a lot of users just prefer to wait until the break, and they go into this on the break and they'll ask, based on the testimony, are there some areas where the witness has been evasive? And if so, suggest follow-up questions. And is there anything that maybe I haven't asked that I should be asking to help bolster my case? So this is an example of, this is very similar to what the real time looks like. Again, we're doing this live with you in a presentation, so I can't show exactly what the real time looks like because we're not in a deposition at the moment. But it is very, very similar to this. You have your real time transcript flowing in on the left-hand side of the page. There's no video yet because the deposition is not over yet. And then you have your AI panel, your sidebar on the right, where you can chat with the transcript, and you can also use insights. And I'll show you insights in just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and go into this, and we're going to drop in that prompt that we talked about together. Based on the testimony, were some areas where the witness was evasive, and maybe suggest some follow-up questions. It's going to think, and it's even going to show you what it's thinking about. And then it's going to drop in the answer. And so here it has identified areas where the witness was evasive. I'm going to pause it there for just a minute to show you. So it's identified it, and let's zoom in just a hair too, make it a little easier for you to read. So we've zoomed in now on the right-hand side. And so it has identified different segments where it believes the witness has been evasive, and it's explained the topic, it's explained what the witness said that seemed evasive, and then it's suggested some follow-up questions for you as the examining attorney to consider, right? It's ultimately up to you. These are just generative AI recommendations. You can take them or not. And so that's kind of, I'm going to hit play on this so to keep going through this. If I can figure out how, now that I've zoomed in, let's see here. I'm going to zoom back out for just a minute. And so you'll see it's given me a handful of different topics, just like I prompted it. And it usually takes about 15 to 30 seconds for this type of question to process. And then it's also identified the second thing I asked it to do. What are some questions I haven't asked that could bolster my case? And so it's gone topic by topic based on the content of this medical malpractice deposition. And it's identified some different areas that maybe I need to dive deeper on. And so it's just, again, it's an extremely powerful second set of eyes. And I think of it like a superpower. Like if you'd tell me about this when I first started practicing law, it really would have felt like I'd put on some body armor to go in to the deposition. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, No, 100%. I mean, it's mind blowing.
And then another, just this is a little practice tip. I would recommend taking longer breaks. And that may seem obvious, but you may not think about it unless you sat in on a presentation like this and talked to someone who's used it. You'll want to spend more than 10 minutes working with this type of tool to really nail down where to go next in your deposition. So some really good questions. We got a couple questions about the recording. The recording will be available after the fact. Let me go into another topic that we like to cover, and that is there is even I've had some really smart attorneys come to me. In fact, one was one of my senior associates, and I asked about, what are you lacking with the AI tools? What do you feel like is missing? And I was a little surprised. She said, I just don't know what to ask it. I'm so focused on the witness, I'm just not sure what to prompt it. And I think that is an example of we all process things differently. And some people are wired to interact with this generative AI and they know exactly what they want to ask. And maybe they've got 5, 10, 20 questions just primed, ready to go. Whereas that's not how everybody's brain is wired. And maybe they're more focused on the witness and their outline, and they don't really want to have to think about it. So the way we approached that at Skribe was we wanted to come up with what I like to call an easy button and give attorneys one-click access to some of the most common things you would want to know during a deposition. So let me show you kind of what that looks like. We're going to go to this same mock deposition, and instead of asking it a question, this time we're going to go to the right and click Insights. And at the bottom of the Insights bar is a big blue button that says Update Insights. And so I'm going to zoom in on this and show you. I'll zoom out just a hair here so you can see what this right-hand bar looks like. We've dropped these insights into 3 categories: inconsistencies, follow-up items, and unanswered questions. So we'll dive into one real quick. And let me see if I can get it to pause. Hold on. When I'm zoomed in, I'm learning that it's much harder for me to figure out how to pause. So I had to zoom back out. So let me show you kind of what it's done, and I'm going to zoom in with it paused to make it a little easier to see. So it has identified, again, this is just clicking one button. So really, you don't have to think much. Just click a button. It has identified 3 potential follow-up items, and it has broken each of those 3 into separate buckets. And so I can click on one. This is verbal report not documented. It is going to tell me what it has spotted as the issue. So here, the nurse acknowledged receiving verbal reports from the night shift, but chose not to document everything reported in the chart, despite having only 1 patient and 2 nurses in the unit. It's also going to link to the real-time text. So if I were to click that, it would take me directly to that portion of the real-time transcript. So I can verify for myself. Again, earlier, I think we said, you want the source of truth to be 1 click away when you're relying on document analysis or testimony analysis. So this is a chance for you to click back to the real time and see for yourself, what did the AI spot in that real time that's given it the impression that this may be something I need to follow up on? And then it's also going to suggest follow-up questions. And again, you can copy these. You don't have to copy everything. You can copy this by topic. So let's say you had Microsoft Word or some other notepad up. You could click copy, and that would drop it directly into whatever tool you want to copy it into. And I see we have Randy. That means we're at our 15-minute warning. Randy, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right. Well, then I'll speed it up a little bit. How about that? So, so that's kind of how it's structured. It goes through those 3 topics. Unanswered questions is another one. I really like unanswered questions. And let me kind of briefly explain why as I'm finishing this out. This helps you make sure you don't leave that deposition without closing the loop on something. And so this is really looking for questions where you don't have a clear answer yet. And now there could be a reason. It may be that the witness doesn't know or something like that, but it does a pretty good job at separating out, I don't knows with things that just maybe you went off on a rabbit trail on some other issue and you forgot to come back and close the loop. So it's a great way to work with depositions. And the last thing we talked about, the last thing for live depositions, we'll go to post depositions to finish, is we talked about the benefit of kind of uploading the materials relevant to the deposition that you're taking. And so let me kind of show, I'm going to give a very simple example. I see one question, do you get any of this in real time? You get all of this in real time. So everything that we've shown so far with regard to the transcript and the AI panel is all available in real time as the deposition is taking place. So that's a great question. And I see another couple of questions have come in. I'll take them at the end if I can, but I want to keep going so we can show you some of the post-depo tools as we get to that soon. This is another live deposition tool. This is a real-time tool. So we're going to give a really simple example. I'm going to click into it and I'll explain what it's doing. And so we're just going to grab our outline. You really want to do this before the deposition starts. But when I recorded this demo, we didn't have that feature yet, but we do now. So it knows, here's what's been uploaded. And I'm just going to ask it. So pretend I'm on a break. Have I covered everything from my outline? Is there anything else I need to follow up on? And it is going to do exactly what I asked it, right? It's going to analyze my outline. It's going to cross-reference things that maybe I haven't covered or that could benefit from follow-ups. And then it's going to draft some sample follow-up questions on the topics that it thinks need to be examined more thoroughly. So it's a very quick and easy way to spot check against your outline whether you've covered everything. So some things to look for live. Again, there are limits to this. We'll go through just a couple of them, and in the interest of time, we're going to keep rolling. Don't get worried or panic if the real-time transcript misattributes speaker names. That can happen, and that gets cleaned up post-event during the human proofreading part, both in the app and in the final transcript as well. So one of the reasons the digital recorders are in the room is try to prevent overtalk, but occasionally speaker attribution can slip. And then Laura, maybe you give your own perspective on this. You know, these insights, these AI suggestions are powerful, but they're really just leads, right? They're ideas, they're suggestions. At the end of the day, how do you train your team on, you know, who makes the final call on what to do or what to ask?
Yeah, exactly the way you described. Attorney discretion cannot be substituted by AI. And just like you gave that pro tip of like considering additional time, once you get all those questions from the chat, you review them and you will spot some questions like that. That just happened to me a few weeks ago where I'm like, okay, I disagree with you. I think this is all I needed for the response. And then I went back to a rough draft. I realized that I got what I needed. And then I crossed that out, didn't ask that question. So as long as, and that's what I'm passing on to my associates, is as long as we are involved, we can't just zoom out and, you know, hope that there's going to be a bunch of questions we can read off of a checklist. There has to be review and professional discretion.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other questions as we go to post-deposition workflow, just to finish out the live deposition stuff, is does the live deposition tools also include that insight inconsistency spotting? And it absolutely does. There was a question of, you know, could you use this tool when the other side is taking depositions and you want, you know, some of these real-time functionalities? I'm going to say this without an express promise on the date. Yes, I'm testing it right now. If you're interested in early access, shoot me an email. We will be relaunching a tool called Link that will give you the ability to leverage AI on any deposition you attend, even if you are not the scheduling attorney. So I'll put my email up at the end. Actually, I can drop it in the chat as well. If you're interested in early access to that, let me know. I think it's going to be a really great tool. So we need to, in the interest of time, show you how we're going to put the record to work. And what does that mean? So I'm going to go on what I think are the most impactful ones. And one is really the fact that now if you use a modern deposition platform, whether it's Skribe or someone else, I would encourage you to look at one of the newer companies to find something that gives you what most of us expect in 2026, which is modern software delivered instantly. And so that, you know, when you finish a depo with Skribe, you're going to get everything except for the final transcript. And then you're going to get the final transcript in 1 week default. And so you really can do a lot more when you have access same day to a transcript, rough transcript, sync to the video that you can leverage AI against. So let's show it. In the interest of time, I'm going to kind of skim past this slide and tell you we're going to have it draft some discovery for us. So let's pretend this deposition just ended. We've got transcript on the left, again, video panel in the middle. And we are going to ask it, hey, based on this witness's testimony today, draft me some discovery RFPs, ROGs, and RFAs to help me fill in some gaps, some things that came up during the deposition. And it is then going to draft exactly what I asked it for, sample requests that I can copy and paste into Microsoft Word to edit to my liking. And so there's a copy button at the bottom if you want to copy everything. One of the questions I get occasionally is, well, how does it know what you've already asked? You can just upload it. And what I mean by that is you could upload the request you've already sent in the case. Down here at the bottom, and let me zoom in, I'll show you. At the chat, there is a little upload button down here, and you could upload a copy of the request, and then you could just put into your chat, don't ask anything I've already asked before, right? Only new topics. Don't repeat. We don't want to repeat any discovery we've already sent out. Or maybe you wanted to draft a letter requesting that they supplement because things came up at the deposition that are relevant to earlier discovery. There's all sorts of ways to use it. Another thing that honestly, this is one of the reasons that I co-founded Skribe with Tom Irby. I've always been a fan of video depositions, but I always thought since I started in 2006, the video was a really big pain in the ass to work with. It was difficult to get the right software. I wanted to create video clips to leverage them at mediation or leverage them at a trial. And it seemed to always require way more hassle, sometimes so much hassle or time and expense if you were using a vendor, that partners would just say, we don't even want to mess with it. And I felt like that was a missed opportunity and that you should be able to create video with modern software, video clips, very, very easily. So one of the things that Skribe prides itself on is really putting the video testimony one click away. So you can use AI now to actually just create video clips for you. You can go into the platform and ask it, hey, create video clips every time the witness talked about topic X, and it will go through that deposition, find every time that topic came up, and create video clips for you. And I'm going to show you an example of kind of what that looks like. And we're just going to ask, this is a car wreck case. We're just going to ask the witness, was the impact heavier on the passenger side or the driver's side of the vehicle? And we're just going to ask the chat, and we're going to see what the answer is. So within a few seconds, it's going to process, and it is going to give me the answer to the question.
So was the impact heavier on either the driver's side or the passenger side, or was it even throughout the front part of the vehicle?
I would say even.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and then I can save that clip.
So
There was a little button here on the right where I can save that clip, and it goes down into my clip list. And so one other thing I want to show you, and again, we only have so much time, so I can't go too deep on this, but now you'll notice over here on this side of the screen, let me zoom in so I can show you what I'm talking about. The rough transcript, and now we've got the final transcript, right? And so this was preview back when this slide was originally built, but it's in final. It's not in preview mode anymore. It's officially part of the platform. What that means though is you can finish the you can create video clips on day one. Deposition's over, you go into the rough transcript, you begin creating video clips. And when the final transcript loads into the platform, I'm going to zoom over here real quick. When that final transcript loads, it's going to start applying page and line numbers to each of those clips that you created. So like you can start creating clips on day one, and a week later, page and line numbers will pop up that correspond to each clip. So you never have to worry about where is this video in the transcript? Like where does it correlate to? So it's a very, very helpful feature. You can also do closed captioning. We don't have time to cover that right now, but if you like subtitles, you can definitely add those to your downloaded clips as well. And summaries, summaries are kind of child's play for AI at this point, but you can definitely use it to summarize depositions. We have a built-in summary tool. We approach it kind of from an executive summary standpoint. So you'll notice that the summary is more focused on, so we've asked it to summarize this deposition, but it's really more focused once it starts kicking out some responses on what I call the type of summary most people would want to read. There are a lot of deposition companies, court reporting companies, that will happily sell you a 30-page or higher deposition summary. I've found that they are usually too much information. And so we approached it from more an executive summary standpoint. You could, if you wanted a longer summary, you could ask it. for a longer summary. That's the beauty of having the interactive interface on the right-hand side where you can tailor things just how you want them. So it's a lot of really, really cool things that you can do with this. We have seen attorneys put deposition clips in their motions filed with the court. Here's an example of it being put on a motion for summary judgment, fact background section. We have seen attorneys put it in their demand letters to try to make their demand letters more persuasive when they send them to the other side. And one of the things Laura and I were kind of chatting about is, you can use it to score the performance of the witness or score your own performance, which is kind of an interesting concept. Laura, I know you said you hadn't had a chance to try that yet, but
Not yet. I'm curious to see how I've been doing in my depots.
it's kind of it's very interesting. I have used it more for mentoring um, associates that are taking depositions to try to help spot places where maybe they lost control of the witness or they didn't use, the funnel technique or whatever technique, we're trying to get them to use. But that, you can do those types of things with a tool like this. There's still some things to look for. And so let's kind of wrap this up with, what are some areas that you still want to be careful when you're using generative AI of any type, whether it's Scribe's tool with Anthropic or whether it's some other law firm tool that's partnered with OpenAI or Google Gemini or anything like that.
You want me to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, what do you kind of caution your team on as they're working with generative AI tools? Again, whether it's Scribe or something else, as it relates to depositions, what are some kind of words of caution that you give them?
Yeah, 100%. What I discussed in the beginning of you have to still know your file. You still have to be prepared. You cannot and absolutely should never be filing something that you haven't checked and that you have cross-referenced, especially if you're saying it's testimony or if it's a citation. You have to 100% review it and verify it and to not expose yourself or the law firm to sanctions or any other type of trouble. And the other thing that we do, well, two things. We have frequent and ongoing communication about how to be using these tools because it's very easy to just dump a new tool and say, hey, everyone, please adopt it, start using it. You may get sanctioned if you use it wrong, but, go nuts. I mean, I think the right way is to have trainings, which Scribe has been great, very good to us, giving us trainings and teaching our team how to use the stuff. And the other thing is to have firm policies. So we do have a policy that we not only do we hand it to our associates to read and sign, but we explain it and verbally, like, this is what it means. You are only to use these platforms that are law firm sanctioned. Please don't go outside for any cases. If you want to use ChatGPT on your own time for your personal emails, go crazy. But for our stuff, you gotta stay within bounds.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. I see a question just came up, and then we'll kind of wrap it up on maybe our trust framework slide here. I'll go ahead and throw it up to kind of prime the conversation. The question came up about whether the AI panel information is discoverable. The answer is no. It would really be attorney work product, and the way that Scribe approaches it, even through our Anthropic agreement, is the data is not retained. So the chats that you're having, the information that you're getting out of it is available, to you during that session. The insights will persist, but only on your account, right? That's really your work, your interaction with the tool. It's not being disclosed to any third parties or anything like that. It's complete. The other thing I think I would emphasize is that is a software tool that Scribe offers that is not used in any way to create the official record, right? And so the non-stenographic record is completely separate thing. That's where the humans are in the loop with the digital reporter assisting with the recording, swearing in the witness, all of those things, and then the professional proofreading that takes place after the fact. That is all the official record process. The generative AI sidebar is just specific to the user. The digital reporter isn't involved in that. They're not chatting with the person. They're completely siloed from that. That is your AI panel where you can use the latest software to leverage on your deposition and your materials that you upload. But that's a very, very great question. And I would say, we're still in the early days, right? And what I mean by that is all of these companies, all these legal tech companies are doing the best possible job they can do to make sure that they protect data privacy and that they do things in a way that's responsible. And certainly Skribe does that. Skribe works with two different law firms, one 50-state firm and one AmLaw firm, on guidance for both transactional work as well as making sure that data privacy is being considered, that litigation rules and guidelines and rules of civil procedure are being followed. So it is definitely something that the company takes very, very seriously. So trust framework, we kind of broke this out into three categories. I know we're just a hair over on time, but we're almost done. And so, Laura, any of these kind of jump off the screen at you? We won't talk about every single thing that's up here, but we tried to break these into categories where we're really, really comfortable. Like you can use AI all the time. There's probably not much risk. Places where you should absolutely use it, but you should just make sure you double check it. Whereas the caution segment is one where, if you're going to use it, you better make really sure that you vetted it, very, very thoroughly. So any jump out at you, Laura, that are ones that either you use or would like to kind of speak to?
Sure. So I definitely see the big picture division of like if it relates to the transcript and all of that stuff, you should be confident that is something that you don't have to double check. And of course, there's going to be, the very, very slim margin of error and typos and things like that. But if you're quoting directly from a transcript, that's something you can rely on. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's, the citations, the case strategy, the asking it to, to give you strategy decisions or things like that. That's, you should think about it this way. Like I have been, when I was a baby lawyer, so to speak, I would draft motions for my boss and his signature was attached to the motion. His bar card is on the line. He still needs to review and check my citations and my conclusions, which he did. So it's the same thing. You have, an associate giving you the stuff, still check what you're getting. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think one of the things that I've already said a couple times, and I'll say it one more time, is you want the source of truth to be one click away. And I think the way that Skribe has approached depositions, the team has done a very good job at that, of always linking back to the transcript, of always linking back to the video when possible, and referencing when documents are analyzed, what part of the document has been analyzed, so that you can more easily check it for yourself, right? You can't completely outsource or hand off all of your work to generative AI, at least not yet. No, I'm joking there. I don't think we will ever do that, but you just have to be able to verify it. And I think, Laura, maybe to go back to one of the things we covered at the beginning, a lot of the states are starting to consider implementing rules that require us to sign off on, either a court standing order or policy, or just maybe even at a statewide level, that we have verified the accuracy of everything that we're filing. So this is particularly important. Again, let me emphasize the distinction when you're using generative AI tools. Less of an issue when you're just relying on the official record. So final transcript, video recording, all those things, that's solid, right? You can rely on that 100%. But when you start using generative AI tools, such as the side panel we went through earlier, that's where you always got to make sure you verify it. You always got to make sure you check it. Well, we talked about a lot. I realize we're just a little over on time. I definitely appreciate you all listening. I really want to say thank you to Laura for joining. We, got to know each other years ago. We have had cases against each other, but I definitely respect her and her firm, and she's done an amazing job with it. And I'm very excited to have her joining me to try to tell you a little bit about how you can leverage modern software like Skribe to take better depositions. If you have any questions, my email is on the screen in the middle, Karl with a K at skribewithak.ai, and I will be happy to tackle them. But Laura, any parting words of wisdom?
Thanks for the invite. Likewise, I enjoy working together, and I will also drop my email in case anyone has any questions about what I covered, or if you want. I think I still have a discount code if someone wants to take their first depo and like give it a try. I think you get like a 10% discount or something along those lines. So shoot me an email. Happy to connect.
That is a very good point, and I feel like I failed on the PowerPoint slide. I should have put up your QR code on the screen, but you know what? I'm going to try to fix it right now. Hold on. Let me see if I can copy Oh, maybe I can't do it. Maybe just give them your email real quick. I see you
Yeah,
dropped it in the
it's
chat.
right there.
Oh, it's in the chat. And look, I'm going to in real time. How about this? I'm going to add it. I'm going to
Nice.
fix my mistake in a matter of seconds. Play from current. Look, how about that? Now you're on the screen.
Beautiful.
So, in all seriousness, we're both Texas litigators. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we also enjoy, as firm owners, thinking about what the future of, this profession is going to be with using AI tools. So, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Laura or me. Our emails are on the screen. And thank you to Randy and the Skribe team for having us.
Yeah.
Bye, all.
Thank you, guys. Bye.